Hey guys, so welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to create a JavaScript tip calculator. So this is how the calculator works. So you enter the bill amount. So this is the amount you're going to be billed. In this scenario, I'm going to use in dollars. So I'm going to be billed $200. Then you add the tip percentage. So the tip percentage is between 1 and 100. So if I have a 10 tip percentage, then my tip is $20. So we're going to create this using JavaScript, HTML and CSS. But our main focus is on JavaScript, how to add the logic. So to get started, head over to this GitHub repository that I have linked in the description, and then clone this repository in your local machine. You can use the HTTPS version or the SSH depending on what you like to use. And then as you might notice, we have two branches, the master branch and the initial branch. So you can clone the initial branch only, or clone the master branch and then switch to the initial branch. Whichever works for you is better. So I'm just going to open my VS Code and then do git clone. And then you go back here. I'm going to use the SSH version. And then I clone that URL. It's cloned. Then we can cd into tip calculator in JavaScript and then open this in VS Code. And also we can switch the branch here. So you can say git switch and then we go to the initial branch. All right, so then you can close that, open the Visual Studio Code, and then this is the project. So if I go into the project, so we do have the HTML template or file. This HTML template is very basic. We have the H1. So let me just add this side by side so that you can see. Then I need to make the HTML a little bit smaller. I think you can see. So you have the H1. This one is corresponds to the H1. We do have, so we have the H1. So we have the H1, which corresponds to this H1. We have the enter the bill, which is a paragraph. We have a field. And then as you can see here on top, we have a form field. So the form element, which encloses the whole form. And then it has its own ID, and then it has a card class, which will be used to style the card. And then we have two inputs. We have the first input is for the bill, and the next input is for the percentage. And then we have a submit button, a summary button. So let's just remove the test content. The summary should be hidden. And then we do have an attribution. So this is the attribution for the owner of the background image, the person who took the image. So to run this application, make sure you have the live server extension. So live server, this one is what I'm going to use to serve the template. Install this extension, and then below here on the bottom you can see something called go live. So you click on the go live and then it will go live. So and then this is what we currently have. See that before, then doesn't work, and then you can see it is reloading the page. So we are going to fix that immediately. So where do we start? So you already see, so we have two inputs. The first input has a name of amount, and then the second one has a name of percentage. We do have a submit button. All right, we only have one button in the page. We only have one form. And then we have the form labels, the fields, everything is here, the buttons and the attribution. So we can make this one bigger, and then we can start working on the JavaScript. So currently we don't have any JavaScript. So the first thing we need, as always, we need to get the data from the inputs. So this is the input fields. We do have two input fields. How do we get them? Since we have a form already in place, the first thing we could do is that we can use this form to grab our data instead of grabbing the data individually from the DOM. So this would help in case you have like so many form elements. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to grab the form element from the DOM. So I'll use document dot get element by, you can use, yeah, get element by ID, and then calc form. So if you go back to the DOM, you can see our form has an ID of calc form. So when doing a get element by ID, we are getting this form element by its own ID. So the next thing we are going to do is create an event listener, because this button, you can see the button here has a type of submit. So we can listen. This is a form element. We can listen. So you can see this is a form element. We can listen whenever this form is submitted. So this button submits this form. All right. So we could add an event listener, and as we said in the previous tutorials, is that the event listener takes in two arguments. The first argument is the type of event you want to capture. The next argument is a function that handles the act of that event. So the event we want here is a submit event, and then we want to call a function called handle submit. And as always, you can write this function inline, but I like creating it outside so that it's easier. You can also write the function on top or below, the way you want, because JavaScript will still hoist this function. So what we can do is that, so unhoisting is what we mean in JavaScript is bringing all function declarations and variables to the top of the file before execution. So I'm going to create a function called handle submit. It will take an event. And the event is whatever event was captured here. So this is the submit. This is the event will be passed to the handle submit function. And then the handle submit function will do its own thing. So the first thing we always like to do is to prevent the form from reloading the page. So reloading and trying to submit to a URL. So let me show you. So let me add 10 and 10. You can see the form is reloading, the page is reloading. So we are going to prevent that default behavior of the form. And so we do this by telling the event that we want to prevent the default behavior. So you say event.prevent default. So this is the default behavior of the behavior of the forms. So forms, when they are submitting, they tend to submit to a URL, and in turn they reload the page. So when we add the prevent default, we prevent the form from doing that default behavior. So, and then after we prevent that, we can console.log the event. So I can make this big and then inspect it, and then we can dock it on the side. All right. So if we say we have $200 and we are giving a percentage of 10, we submit, we get the submit event. So the event we just console logged is the submit event. So this is the event. This event will be passed to our function, and then this event will carry so much details about the form, what fields were there, what happened. Let me just show you. So if we check this, we have so many key property values. So we do have is trusted, cancel bubbling, current target, default prevented. So you can see we did prevent default. If we did not, this event could result into a refresh of the screen, and it would try to submit the data to an URL. So if you don't provide the URL, let me just show you. So this is the default. If you don't prevent the default, let's just do that. And then we say action /go. Then if you try to submit this, you can see it tried to go to /go and then added our form field data as key value pairs. I hope you saw that. So to prevent that default behavior of we remove the action. We don't care about the action. Then we come back and redo what we did. So if we go back and refresh this, add $200 and 10%, and then we click So you have so many data, but what we are currently interested on, we don't care about the timestamp. We see the type is submit. We see the source element. We care about the target. So the event dot target, you can see dot target. The target has so many. So the target will give us the form itself and then details about that form and all that. So you can see the form, the input one is amount, and then let's see about the value. Okay. So let's see. There are so many. So you can see the name. You can see we have a name, amount. That's the name we added. I'm looking for something called, I think, the value. All right. So you do have so many things here. We have the inner HTML, the ID, form target, form no validate, disabled false, client with all this data. But we're not going to work with this data manually. So what we're interested on is the event.target. So if you go back to our HTML, we can use the form data API. So let me show you how the form data worked. So the form data is a DOM API that helps us. So let me just show you. We can say new form data and then give it the e.target. So we saw the target is the form. So that form, we pass it to this form constructor. So you can see form data interface provides a way to construct a set of key value pairs representing form fields and their values, which can be sent using the window.fetch. You can see. So this is an interface that will help us work with the form and it will grab the data of the form for us. So if we give it the event.target, the event.target gives us the form. Let's console log this form data. Let's see what it has. So if you go back, then we want $200 and 10, and that we get form data which is empty because it has embedded fields. So we need to do something called form data dot. Let's see, get all. Let's see what we get with these methods. So we say get all. So 210. So get all requires, let's say, amount. I think we should use get. So 10. Yeah, so we can get all and give it what we want to get. So we have gotten the amount, but we don't need it in this way. So you don't want to get each item. So dot, we can get the values, the keys, let's try the entries. So 210. So the entries is an iterator of the form. So to get the data as an object, this is what we do. We use the object constructor. So you can say object dot from entries. So we saw the form data is an entry iterator. So let me show you. We saw this one is a form data iterator. So we can get the from entries, object dot from entries. So let's console log this and see. So 100 and 10. And then we get amount and the percentage. So point to note is that in your HTML form, you need a name. This name is what will correspond to what the form data will give us. So the name and the percentage. So this is where they are coming from. So if we get the name and the percentage using this, we can do const name and percentage is equals to that. And then if you wonder what I have done here, this is called object destructuring. So by destructuring means instead of doing, so let me copy paste this, then comment out this. So instead of doing data equals that and then coming and doing, so const name is equals to data dot name const percentage equals to data dot percentage. So instead of doing all these 3 lines, you can do it using 1 line, whereby you grab the data inside the form, inside the object. So our object has name, the name and the percentage. So by doing object destructuring, we can grab the name and the percentage on the fly like this. So, and as soon as we get the name and the percentage, so we can calculate the tip. The tip is equals to, not the name, we have the amount. So the tip is equals to the amount times the percentage. And also remember, the amount from the DOM is a string, so we need to convert it to a number. So we just do the number, we use the number constructor, and then you can say the number amount times the number of percentage, and then divide by 100. So as soon as we get our tip, we can console log the tip. And then if we go back, $200 and 10 percentage, we get a tip of $20. So the next thing is to show the $20 in our DOM. So this summary, we can insert the text content. So it has a div, it has a class of summary. So we can grab it. So we can do document dot query selector dot summary and then dot text content, and then we can do equals total $8 and then the tip. So we don't need that anymore, so we can do $100 and then we can do 10 percentage tip, and then we get the total is 10. So this one is like the total tip. So we could do total, instead of doing total we can do tip. So then we want $1,000, and then about 10 percentage tip, we get the tip is $100. And that's it, guys. That's how you create a JavaScript tip calculator. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, share with your friends, and see you next.